What's up, everybody? Welcome back. It's Wednesday. All right, happy hump day to everyone. Hope everybody's week's going as swimmingly as mine. Maybe not. It was actually a pretty rough morning. Let me start with that. So, yesterday, I was at the store. And I looked down, getting back to my truck, and I look down at my tire, and I see this nail sticking out about that far. And it wasn't like a regular nail. It was like more like a spike sticking out about that far from close to the sidewall of my tire. I don't know how long it had been there. Don't know how long it was either, but you could tell it was pretty deep in there. So I make a phone call to figure out if they could change the tire or to do like a plug. And they said no. And of course, because I have an all-wheel drive vehicle, if things were not right, then I'd have to replace all four tires, which really sucked when I heard the news. So anyway, this morning I get up, I had an awesome call with some folks in another group, and everything was hunky-dory. It was time for me to go change that tire real quick, so I get everything ready to start lowering the spare, which is kept underneath the truck. And for some reason, as I'm operating the tools, it's not working. All right, and for those of you who know how to lower the tire from a truck, there's a little hole. You stick the rod in there. It lines up with a bolt, and you screw it, and it lowers the tire. Well, nothing was lining up. Like, there was nothing in there. I was like, what the hell's going on? I'm like, it hasn't been that long since I've had to change a tire, because I've had to do it before, right? I'm very handy. I'm capable. I know how to change a tire. It's not that big of a deal. But it wasn't working. And I was starting to get pissed off, like uber, because I'm out front looking like an idiot on my phone, Googling how to take the damn tire. I'm like, what am I missing? So I get underneath the damn truck, and I look up, and I'm like, oh, something's weird here. What is this? Well, there's a swing arm like attachment that goes from the junction where the bolt is to lower the tire to the hole in the bumper. They were not connected. So it was just swinging free, loose underneath there. I'm like, how the hell would that even happen? I'm racking my brain because it's like a good, 3-inch overlap. I'm like, there's no way that's just bent and just popped out of there. Yeah. So about 4.5, 5 years ago, shortly after I bought the truck, I got a flat and had to get a new tire. Got it patched up, good to go. A couple months after that, I got rear-ended. Old man backed into my bumper, had to get a new bumper. Well, when they pulled it off and put it back on, they didn't put it on correctly. So now I can't get that freaking tire out to save my life. So I'm going to have to remove the entire bumper. So I take the tire off finally, take it all the way to the shop. They look at it, they say, we can't repair that. There's no way. It's too close to the sidewall, liability, you could die. Fine. So I'm like, well, all right, what do you need me to do? She's like, well, put the tire back on, drive back here, and we'll probably have to replace all four. Well, long story long, get back with the truck. They got me an appointment. All said and done, I was smart enough to buy road hazard insurance for the tires 2 years ago when I bought the tires. Thank God, because that was going to be a expensive bill if I had to pay for 4 new tires. So I ended up getting only one tire because all the treads were good. Apparently I don't drive as crazy as I thought. Either that or those tires are really nice. So the tread wasn't bad, so I didn't have to buy 4 tires. Not only that, but I spent $17, got a brand new tire, and the insurance transferred over to the new tire. So my day started out shitty and then ended pretty good. So hopefully your day is going the way mine ended, right? It's not all crappy like it was this morning. But I didn't come on here to talk about my crappy morning. No. I wanted to come on here and talk about another book. Because, again, I tend to read every now and then. I'm not an avid reader, to be honest with you. I'm not. But I do listen to books on a regular basis. If Audible's listening and they want to, throw me a few bucks for putting it out there, I'm not going to say no. But anyway, this is the book that I want to talk about today. The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. Now, before I get into it, I will say that the books have an interesting take on things. Um, the philosophy that he lives by, that he writes about, has to do with the old Toltec philosophies. I'm not really familiar with the Toltec. I've heard of them, studied them in school for a little bit, but now I'm 42 and have that in the back of my mind, right? But I tell you what, the book is very good. All right. And these four agreements, all, when you hear them, you're like, well, these seem kind of self explanatory. But the way he explains them goes a little bit deeper. I'm not going to go that deep here. It's a very short read. I read it on a plane ride back from, where was that? Salt Lake City last year. He's got a couple other books I haven't gotten through. And believe it or not, there's a fifth agreement. I haven't read that one. But this book is a great starter. In my opinion, this is all you need. The four agreements, live by them, follow them, and you'll be living a fabulous life. So let's go over this real quick. The first agreement, and this is actually very important, regardless of if it's in a book or not. Be impeccable with your word. Self-explanatory, right? So what does that mean? Well, if you say you're going to do something, then do it. And if you're not or you can't, be honest and say, I can't. I talked about communication on Monday. That's a big part of it. Be impeccable with your word. But you have to follow through. And that's important. And some of us, even myself included, will start something and just can't finish it. And it sucks. So if you think that's going to happen, look back the last time you didn't finish something and think about how you felt. And it should give you a little bit of motivation to get through whatever it is you're trying to do. So the second agreement, don't take anything personally. This one is a little bit difficult for me because if you decide to read the book or if you have read the book, maybe you read it the way I did. And if you're a different kind of person who, let's say, asshole by nature, you're going to take this particular thing very, very literal. Because part of his explanation is you shouldn't care what other people think about how you made them feel. And I think you have to be careful with that particular belief. The way I would say it would be totally different. I would say I said something. My intentions were not to be harmful to that person, but their reaction is not my fault, right? So let's say you're criticizing someone. This goes back to the communication piece on Monday. Let's say you're giving constructive criticism to somebody and they take it personal. So they get mad, they say things back to you, and then you start feeling bad about criticizing what they did. Well, his point is you shouldn't. You say what's on your mind if you're honest and it's constructive and it's in a good, coming from a good place, then you can't take fault in how they reacted. A lot of people do that. They take on other people's feelings. They take on other people's reactions to what was said. And you can't do that. If you start doing that, you're basically going to carry the whole world on your shoulders. And eventually something's got to give, and it's going to be you. So don't do that. Say what you have to say and let it be. Don't let their reaction concern you whatsoever. All right? So that's how I would do that. Don't take anything personally. The third one is don't make assumptions. This is a pretty good one too. And let's think about this. When he's talking about assumptions, he's talking about our initial thoughts about all sorts of things. He uses relationships, for instance, as an example. And we can't assume, and he says this, we can't assume that people know what we think, right? And yeah, I'm going to call out women on this one, my wife and, especially, and then she'll probably slap me when she gets home. But she'll say something and it won't be, I won't understand what she's talking about. I'm like, what do you mean? And she's like, how do you not know what I mean? I'm like, well, you weren't very specific. So she'll just assume I knew everything that she meant based on 5 words. And I'll be completely oblivious. I had no clue. Remember, we talked about hints? Same thing. Don't make assumptions. Don't assume people know what you're thinking. Unless you're specific about it, assume they know nothing. All right? But then again, you're assuming. So that's that. And he also says that a lot of times what we do is we'll make assumptions about things we see, hear, things that happen, and we'll assume something about it that's completely off, and we will continue to believe. We'll start to believe it. Like, we'll tell ourselves, this is true. This assumption is now a truth. This is our truth, and nothing's going to change our mind. And so we start fighting for that truth, right? We start defending it. And if you look at, let's use Facebook, because this is my platform, right? I'm on there on a regular basis. If you look at Facebook feed and go to a comment section of any political post, yep, going there. Each person is defending their assumption about the situation. And we all do it. I've done it. It's not saying that, I'm impervious to that. I make assumptions on a regular basis. But because of that, I try to tell myself, okay, don't assume. Let's wait until we get everything. But you'll see it in the headlines on a regular basis as well. Things come up in the news, and this is this, and this is why it happened. Well, then more news comes out. Turns out that's not completely the case. So that's what he's talking about. Don't do that. Don't assume shit. All right. And then the last one is always do your best. Again, it sounds self-explanatory. But if you think about it, it's not. Because my best today may not be my best tomorrow. For whatever reason. My motivation may be different, maybe waning, maybe down. My discipline may be suffering at the same time. So whatever my best is today may change tomorrow. But as long as I'm giving my best, that's all I can do. And he says that this has to do with the first 3 agreements. As long as you're doing your best to keep your word, to not take anything personal, and to keep from making assumptions, you're going to be okay. You're going to have a lot less stress in your life, a lot less worry, and things are going to be smooth. Your outlook will be different as well. So keep that in mind, and not to beat yourself up if you slip, because that's important. People make mistakes, and there's no such thing as perfection, right? Because perfection is subjective, and it's very personal. So I highly recommend giving this book a read. It's very interesting. He's got a very different outlook on things. He's got a couple other books, like I said, that I'm trying to get through. I'm not saying that everything he says in here is 100% like solid and fact, but it definitely gives you a different perspective on how to live each day. One, staying true to yourself and true to others. 2, not creating a mind full of chaos by making assumptions and taking things personal. And 3, as long as you're putting out the best effort you can, you're going to be good to go. All right. So that's what I want to talk about today. Remember, The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. Do me a favor. Hit me up in the comments. Let me know, 1, if you've read the book, what your thoughts were on it. If you know any of his other works, let me know. Drop me a line. If you have any questions about why I think the way I think, also drop me a line. Again, this is not a place I'm trying to start an argument or anything. This is a discussion. I'd love to collaborate and get other people's opinions on the books that I read and book recommendations. If there's a book out there that you read recently that just resonates with you, just hits home, and you think would be good for me to read, put it out there. I'll read it and then do a review. It's not going to happen overnight because I'm a slow reader, but I'll get onto it. So for those of you that came and watched live, I appreciate it. If you guys are watching the replay, let me know in the comments. As always, I appreciate y'all. Take care.